I'd like to call the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board to order. It is Thursday, May 5th, it's 6:01. I'd like to start with introductions.
Good evening, I'm Christine Macklin, as the Northwest School District Representative.
John Markowski, resident of Bridport and WIB member.
Steve Orzek, ACSD.
Kim Farnham from New Haven. I'm the community at large member from the Mount Abraham School District.
Nick Colston from Shoreham, representing ACSD at large.
Steve Rooney, representing Mount Abe Unified School.
Suzanne Buck, ACSD representative and administrators.
I think I'm the only one. Dana Peterson, Superintendent, Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School.
And then Linda Barrett is our clerk. Linda Barrett, clerk. Gretchen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Gretchen Bailey, resident of Panton.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as written, please?
So moved. And second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the agenda?
If it please the board, I may just offer a brief update on our EBI contract follow-up from last time. And I did not put that on the agenda, but it will only take 2 minutes.
The network. With that brief addition to the agenda, is there anything else? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. It's not on our agenda, but Gretchen, do you have any comments?
I do, I have a question. Good evening, I'm here for, oh wait, I have to write it down because I do lose my train of thought sometimes. I'm here about the computer science job posting. And is the position still open?
Yes, for next year.
Pardon me?
For next year,
For next year? For 21, for 22, 23?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Have you hired, has the position been filled?
So
At all?
Next year, no.
Community public comment is not normally where we do a give and take. So if
Okay,
you want to just tell us what
I
your
do.
comment is, and then we can.
so you're not gonna give and take. I understand that there are 2 experienced representative board people that have come forth that weren't allowed to bring their applications to the board. And I'm talking about Jake Burnham and Jeff Bronson. They weren't even denied an interview. The computer science is an important program that definitely warrants to be considered. It's a STEM program, and it needs to be taught by accomplished and competent personnel. I heard there were 10 students interested in this course. As a taxpayer, I need an explanation to why Jake's or Jeff's applications weren't brought before the board.
Thank you, we'll take it up.
You can't give me an answer?
Not right now, I can't, no, I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm not prepared to give an answer, and in public comment, it's not a give and take with the board. It's like you bring your concerns to the board, and then we will take them up.
And then how will I get an answer?
If there's an answer that we can give to you that is public, we'll get it to you in an email.
What do you mean, public? There's no conflict of
Gretchen,
interest?
I'm not gonna go back and forth with you,
Okay.
okay? Thank you for your concern, and we will take it up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bond attorney selection is, we have 3 action items. Bond attorney selection, short-term financing option, and owner representative selection.
Yes, I guess all of those are mine. So if we can take the first one, I have a recommendation to engage the law firm of Primer, Piper and Eggleston as our bond attorney. And they come highly recommended, including a high recommendation from our own legal counsel. They are the premier bond attorneys for the region, including New Hampshire as well as Vermont. And the individual who would be assisting us specifically is named Elijah Emerson. So I've already had a couple of conversations, and they have done very well. Engaged them for some preliminary work just to be able to make sure that we knew what we were doing in terms of our bond application, and they have been very responsive. So.
At the last board meeting, did we authorize you to find a bond attorney agent, however the wording is for them? So
Right.
now we need to authorize you to sign a
To just,
contract with them?
I don't
or-
have to sign a contract, it's just to engage with
Okay.
them. Because we have our legal counsel normally, this is just to be above board so that we're not getting rid of our own legal counsel, but they specialized in bonds. So
Okay.
it was just to make sure that everything was above board and we were bringing forth a name. So I've done my research, and they are really the primary firm that specializes in this area.
So you'd like a motion from us then?
That would be helpful,
That would be helpful.
to just allow me to engage them, that's enough.
I move that we give Dana permission to engage with, was it Prim, Piper, and Eggleston?
Primer, Piper, and
Primer,
Eggleston.
Piper,
Yep.
and Eggleston.
Is there a second to that motion?
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to allow Dana to engage with
Primer, Piper,
Primer,
Primer, Piper,
Primer, Piper, and
Eggleston.
Eggleston. Oh my goodness.
It's good thing it's not
And Kramer.
Peter Piper.
And
Oh, and
Kramer.
Kramer, so, I'm sorry.
Forgot Kramer.
Excuse me, Nick, thank you for that
Primer,
correction. Primer, Piper,
Eggleston,
Eggleston, and
and
Kramer,
Kramer.
yes.
Okay, now we get their full title.
I'm hearing a nursery rhyme with
I
my.
was thinking the same thing.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thanks.
Any abstentions? Okay. Motion passed. Short-term financing option.
This will be relatively quick. I have been gathering information on short-term financing. I have one proposal, the other one is coming, should be in tomorrow at the latest, but I would like to ask if the board wouldn't mind tabling that until next Thursday, when I can get you the information from both banks for you to consider, and then we'll go from there. Preliminary indications are that the financing would be about 2% divided by, it would be multiplied by 30 over 1/12, multiplied by a 12, and that would be over the period of the loan, which is expected to be through the end of August. The bond bank has indicated that they should have financing available for us to draw on as of September 1st. They actually think it will be available in August, in which case we could repay a short-term loan without any penalty. But the bond bank did say that, so I said, if I'm talking to our board, if I gave them September 1 availability date, would that be okay? And they said more than fine. So that's what I'm sharing with you, that by September 1st, we would be able to repay that short-term financing loan.
Any questions or clarifications with Dana on that? Okay.
So no action this evening. We'll put that on next week's agenda.
Owner representative selection. I think you're trying to trip up my tongue tonight.
Yes. So you should have a scope and fee proposal from Marty Spalding of PCI Capital Project Consulting. He basically is projecting, and this a cost of managing the project from inception to conclusion and final documentation of $43,900. And he expects that would be approximately 439 hours at $100 an hour. If we need to engage them for an extended period of time, for whatever reason, that extended period of time would be billed at $100 an hour. So it's no different. So, and in the the proposal that he has put out, he outlines what services we would get. If you have any questions or would like me to review any of the bullet points, please let me know. I was asked if I had submitted this proposal for a legal review, and I have not. If that would be the pleasure of the board, I'd be happy to do so. And you can certainly authorize me to move forward after legal review like we did with the EEI project if you so choose.
What are people's thoughts? I do know that our lawyers are swamped currently, so that trying to get things into their agenda to get it worked on is sometimes more than challenging. Ed?
When we go with a company like this or a person like this to keep track of all these things on our behalf, if they miss something and it creates a $10,000 cost overrun because they missed something and then somebody has to go back and fix it, is there any recourse, or are we paying that $100 an hour or that $43.09 regardless? And then is there some responsibility that they have that are they insured against some sort of issue if they?
Yeah, do they have E&O insurance? Would be the question.
Yeah.
What insurance?
Errors and
Errors and
omissions.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you said E&L, and I was like, E&L.
So I don't know if you remember, ACSD did the bank repair over by the softball fields, and the people that they hired to do that went in and they designed the work, and they went in and they did the work, and it all slid into the river. And when they tried to recover, the firm said we didn't pay for, and so I think there ended up not being we couldn't recover anything on that. So I think that's a very important question because something collapses in the building and they say, well, we just went based on your architecture plans and you didn't pay for the deluxe model or whatever the deal was. So I think that's a very relevant.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the general contractor, or are you talking about the person just supervising the project? Because there were two different questions.
Well, if we have a supervisor that essentially we hire to do a job, and they don't see something that they should have seen, so whether it's a receipt, I don't necessarily know in their world what they could do wrong, but if there's something that they miss that ends up costing the district money.
Miss a big
Right.
asbestos.
We miss a payment or something, and they're supposed to review the receipts, and then therefore we get billed some interest or some such thing. And I still am a little bit unclear with this person. I've never worked on a big job like this where this would have to be somebody that exists on the job. In general, if you hire somebody to do something, and if something slips through the crack, hopefully there'll be some recourse.
Steve, can you give any input or?
Well, I mean, Steve's point is very valid for the contractor and the design professionals. I've not actually heard of E&O insurance for a clerk of the works or a project representative. I would think there'd be some limited liability on their part for what they're reviewing. They're basically doing kind of second oversight. The primary responsibility for this is the design team and the contractor.
Right. And there are provisions within the contract that we provided for your review last month, which has gone through legal review, and we've had several meetings with them to make sure that we are covered for any of those errors and omissions.
Right.
And they have quite a bit of insurance coverage, which I actually did take to VISBIT, and so VISBIT has done an insurance review, so we have covered all of our bases with respect to the general contractor. And that's covered, and the legal team says that is in very good order. So I executed that as per your authorization at the last board meeting.
No, I don't see why that wouldn't be a great question to toss in. legal counsel.
You would expect them to have insurance of some sort.
Well, if they're offering a service, like
Yeah.
no matter what, and there has to be a value for what we're getting, and part of the value would be that they're helping things not slip through the cracks, right? They're
Right.
keeping track of receipts, keeping track of work done, keeping track of things on our behalf. That's part of their value. The other part of the value would be that if they miss something, we're not left holding the bag.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
think I can get a quick response.
Okay.
If I send this short document
Great.
to the person who is working with us on
Thank you.
the large project, because he is well steeped in all of the intricacies of the energy performance contract.
Great, thank you.
Steve, sorry.
Were you able to pass any of those comments that I made back on to Marty? Did they have any comments?
I was waiting until, I just got those yesterday, I responded, I think. I will include those here, but I may also include those in legal review, so.
Okay.
I'm sure that if we asked them to include those in here, that we would do so. I didn't think I could send that between yesterday and today.
Yeah, I was just curious.
To get an answer for tonight, so I figured I'd find out what your pleasure was and then incorporate that. But I have those right here, Steve, to include with any review that we would do for the scope of the proposal from Marty.
So for what would, oh, sorry, Nick.
I mean, 43,900, is that, we discussed that at the last meeting, is that going to be covered by the 8.1?
It is not.
It is not, so that's going to be on top.
That is correct. That's up to us because this particular provision was not identified and included when they were doing their scope of work.
Okay.
So we did have a proposal that could be used out of the BRF funding. Right. And in fact, I think it was Missy who asked if that would be a valuable use for funds within the BRF, and I believe there was consensus by the committee on that.
So, considering it's quite a lot of money and it's over and above the 15,000
Right.
we're normally authorized, it might be worth having a second quotation of bid to see if, I mean, I know these people are well known by EEI and they're well known by John, so there's a certain comfort level with these people, but
Right, he's the former facilities
I know.
director up at Burlington High School
Yeah.
for quite a while. And
Yeah.
he's gone into private business.
but presumably they're not the only people who do this.
If it's the board's pleasure, I'll take a recommendation from the board to explore whatever you would like besides this. This I can have them review. Usually I don't need a recommendation for that, but if you would like me to entertain additional quotes and identify them before next week, I will do my best to do that.
What's the board would need to make a motion if that's their pleasure. We'd have to second it.
I'm curious, did EEI give you a list of soft costs in addition to hard costs that were either in or out of the budget for the 8.1? So hard costs are, doors and windows and
Labor and, no, they.
soft costs are design fees, building permits.
They're all included, what they said is that design fees and building permits are all included in the 8.1, but they didn't do a breakout. If you remember looking at the final investment grade audit, they had about 13 or 15 areas that they identified and the costs that were associated with those. But they did not break it down. We had asked at one point in time, and the response was that they were looking at order of magnitude in terms of what it would cost to get those areas addressed. But we did not get a breakdown within those areas. So for example, on asbestos at $550,000, they did not break that down in terms of labor costs or how much it would cost for the specialized equipment and
Right. Hazmat is usually an owner's cost anyway. That's usually on the soft cost side of the equation.
okay.
So if they gave you a lump sum for that, then they've covered some of those soft costs. You said the building permit, that's usually a soft cost.
Yep.
Furnishings, if you were gonna buy a bunch of furniture, that would be soft cost, loose equipment.
So what they've done is they've broken it down. For example, what was their category? It was millwork, for example.
Well, millwork would be hard construction, but
Yeah, that's
the
true.
reason why I'm bringing it up is because that's a soft cost that might usually be in a list of soft costs that people were budgeting for.
Yep.
And I was just curious what else might, if that wasn't covered, what else was not covered under the soft cost category? So,
When you say it was not covered,
well,
do
you were
agree
saying
with
that the 43 is not in the 8 million?
my understanding is that is the only thing that was not budgeted because we didn't originally request that up front.
Okay.
In the agreement, it does say that they're responsible for all fees and that we will get any credits, energy credits and things like that.
Well, and it's also common that you might have somebody on your staff like John Curler who
Right.
could actually fill this role if they have
Correct.
capacity for it. So that might be why they didn't figure,
They may
I thought
have,
that
but
you
when
might
we
have
started
needed a
this
clerk
process,
or-
we didn't know a couple of things.
yeah.
We didn't know that we'd still be looking for a business manager. We didn't know that we were going to be looking for a business manager. Well, we also didn't know that the superintendent was going to be retiring.
Right.
And that the director of facilities would be alone trying to manage the process. So it did seem that it would be prudent, and I think we had this discussion at the last meeting, to explore that, to provide additional support for John. John is quite capable and he'll have a good say, but having somebody else to be able to support that so that he can take care of the day-to-day and not have to be worried about every little incident or instance of the project.
Vermont Inspection Services, have you checked in with them? That's another, if you needed another name.
Oh, you mean in terms of doing this?
Yeah,
No, I have not checked in with them.
I haven't dealt with them in quite some time, and could find out that they're no longer in business.
Do you know where they're out of, Steve?
They're out of South Burlington,
Okay.
Brian Haas, H-A-A-S.
H-A-A-S. Okay, check with Vermont Inspection Services. Yep. Okay.
So, what's your pleasure, board?
Do we need a motion to?
I would feel more comfortable if I had that directive
I
coming from the
think we
board.
should have, because I said that originally, we should do a motion if you want Dana to continue down looking for other ones.
For one more.
Okay, one more.
Mm.
However you'd like to make the motion next.
So I move that the superintendent locate another owner representative for a competitive bid on the 8.1 million project.
How about that I try to find another
Yes, yes.
rather than actually do it? Because there are two steps there. I could work for a week and come back to the board and say that I can't find one.
Okay, try to find it.
So authorize the, superintendent to try to find it.
Yeah.
Can I ask for clarification?
Yeah.
You asked for him to get at least one other quote for the 8.1 project. That's not what you're asking.
No.
Is that correct?
To represent the board.
But yeah, you didn't say it that way, so I want to
Okay.
make it clear.
I caught the same thing.
So,
Can you make it clear what you're asking him to get a quote for?
For an owner's representative.
An owner representative to
Thank you.
represent the board
on the
with regard to the 8.1 million project.
there we go. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Thanks, Steve.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? To find an owner's, a second quote for an owner's representative on the 8.1, to represent the board on the $8.1 million bond. Any further discussion? Seeing none and hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay. And you had a quick 2-minute update you said on EEI contract?
Yes, but I think I actually have covered that because I said that we had executed it
Oh,
because
okay.
going through legal review. I was talking about that with, so, I mean, if you'd like me to clarify anything, but I think I covered it.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that that was
Yeah.
all that you wanted to say.
That's
So
all, I
that-
just wanted to let
okay.
you know that that's been executed. So,
All right.
And by the way, the response from our legal counsel was that the agreement that we were handed was extremely fair and extremely balanced in terms of responsibilities for both parties. So he was extremely pleased with the overall presentation. We had some cosmetic things and a few clarifications that needed to happen, which took us the better part of several days going back and forth. It was executed yesterday. So.
Great.
So the legal opinions, did you get, was that in writing or just verbal?
The writing part was that he rewrote the agreement and they agreed to it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want an opinion on what he wrote.
No.
But that.
So he did put some.
He and I, give you the process, he and I met, we reviewed the document for scope. He asked for a couple of clarifying questions from me about the 5 documents or 7 documents that actually combined to make the agreement. We spent most of our time on the middle section, which was the terms and conditions section, and we went over that line by line. He made comments, he had some questions for them. All of those comments and questions were answered or addressed, they were resolved. He had some recommendations about language that could be put in to make it clearer about roles and responsibilities and our protections. He did that. And then I made sure that I did a final review, PDF the final document with all of those changes in there, and it was sent off yesterday to EEI with our, he gave me the thumbs up and said, it looks good now that we've gotten to this point. No hesitation, we've had a good hearing. So that was the final thing, but he did not put in writing, yes, Dana, this is a good document. he wrote it.
But the final version is in the file.
The final version actually says
Is in the file.
it is in the
So
file.
that we can find it after
Yes.
your retirement.
John Curler has a copy. The business office has a copy.
Okay.
I have a copy. Our attorney has a copy. And
Okay.
EEI has a copy. I think that covers everybody.
Okay.
If you'd like me to send it someplace else, please make a motion.
No, the board doesn't have a copy.
Nick, would you like a copy?
No, I do not. I read the initial one.
If you would like one, just feel
No,
free to come
no.
in and see Shane, and he will be happy to print off 70
Good.
whatever pages.
No, that's all right. We don't need to kill a few more trees.
Okay.
All right. So we have like 2 minutes before we have to put Judy and Steve. So we can go through the 3 Steve piece again. Remember, the Steve that's supposedly joining us is Joel. Steve said
Rooney.
is just Rooney,
Yep.
and this is Steve. And I'll try my best to keep them all straight tonight. But we do have the executive session on there on negotiations of personnel.
Is that after?
That is after or during part of that possibly, because they did say that part of the results are not for public and some are for public. So at some point they'll tell us when we will need to do a motion to go into executive session. Okay?
And you also have an update on negotiations. If I
Yes, that's
remember
true.
correctly. So,
So.
this is all set and ready to go. If you can log into your email, Suzanne.
Good evening, how are you all doing?
Great. So Judy, to let you know, we do have an executive session on our agenda. Steve said that we may need it based on whatever you might have for us, so that is there.
But currently in
Okay,
open session.
I'm sorry.
We are currently, though, in open session.
Do you have audience participants there?
We do not, but we do have community TV. Oh, yes, we do. We have one community member and we have community TV here filming.
Yeah, I would suggest you go into executive session because, well, how about if I give you your executive summary?
Yes.
And then I think we can do that in open session. And then after that, I think we'll probably want to go into closed session for the purpose of personnel.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sound all right?
Yep, sounds fine.
Okay. You may want to turn your Zoom camera a little bit to, let me visualize, to
Over toward Nick's side.
Got it?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Oh, there we go.
Great. Well, I had some really nice visits on April 25th with your stakeholders and enjoyed meeting everyone. You know, when we meet with stakeholders, we ask the same 4 questions as I think Steve and I shared with you the day we first met with you. We asked 4 questions. The first one is, tell us the good things about your community. The second one is, tell us the good thing about your school. The third one is, what issues should the superintendent director be aware of as he or she comes into the district, in this case, into the Hannaford Career Center, and what skills, qualities, or characteristics should the new superintendent director possess to be successful here? So I spent the day with your stakeholders and got to know them. It's a little bit weird to do it virtually, but I felt like I got a good chance to meet students, teachers, community members, parents, your business leaders, and I got a chance to get to know one of your community members who was a former staff member in the school. So we spent a good deal of time together as members of the Patricia Hannaford Career Center at large. And I heard a lot of things, and I'm happy to tell you there was a great deal of congruency amongst what the various stakeholders had to share. So what I'd like to do now is just to share that with you, to give you a flavor of what I heard from the various stakeholders. You are also going to get a complete report that's called the Stakeholder Report. Nothing that creative about the title, but you're going to get a complete report that will give you the detail from each of the stakeholder groups. It's also going to give you specific detail from the online surveys. And that report should be coming to you probably sometime next week, maybe the week after, but we've completed all the, we've received all the summary, all the stakeholder input, and so the folks at the home office are working on putting that together in a booklet for you.
Judy, would that come in the mail, or how's that coming?
Yes, you will get both. You will get hard copies for each of you as board members, and then you will also get an online version that we'll send to you, Suzanne, and then you can distribute it to your fellow board members. We typically also post it on the Mac and Jake website and give it to you to post on your website where you have the superintendent search, so that your stakeholders can all view it as well. But we try to get it to you as the board first, so that you have a chance to review it. So the executive summary, I'm going to go through this with you now, and then as soon as we finish our meeting, I'm going to email this executive summary to you, Suzanne, so that you can share it with the rest of the board members. The executive summary will also be the opening of the complete stakeholder report. So you're going to see it multiple times, but as you're going to hear it tonight, you're going to each receive a copy of it when Suzanne emails it to you, and then you'll see it as the opening pages of the complete stakeholder report. This is the overview of the detail that we heard from people. So tell us the good things about your community. We heard lots of things, but these were the highlights. Beautiful place to live. It's a warm and friendly community, that there's a good sense of community, that it's welcoming and accepting. There are many outdoor opportunities, and that Middlebury College is here. One person even shared, we didn't put this in the summary, but one person said, I had out-of-town company here, and they stopped in at one of the stores and were purchasing a pair of gloves. and realized they had left their wallet at my house. And the shop owner said, don't worry about it, take the gloves, and when you come back later, just bring the money and you can pay me later. That was the sense of the community, that people are very welcoming, very trusting, that it's just a warm atmosphere, and that the guest of the person who lives there said, seriously, you mean you want me to take the gloves and not pay for them until I come back later? But that was just the flavor, and we heard that from every stakeholder group. Not that specific example, but I loved the example because it really gave a flavor of your community. In terms of tell us the good thing about your school, that students feel very supported, that teachers are incredible and really know their students, that programs match students' interests and needs. There are so many hands-on learning opportunities, that there's an amazing depth of knowledge amongst the faculty, and that students get real-life learning experiences. So those were highlights. Of course, there was much more detail, but those were highlights that we heard about the good things about your school. In terms of what issues the new superintendent director should be aware of as he or she comes into the Career Center, we heard this, that the climate created by the current leader is not welcoming and dissuades people from wanting to enter the school from other buildings. We heard that Hannaford does not always seem welcoming to students who struggle in their learning. That the relationship between the current leader and the staff is strained, and that the new superintendent director will need to work hard to earn the trust and build relationships. And I would say that that was building relationships both internally and externally with those who are administrators and educators in other buildings. That there needs to be accountability from the board and for the board. That the funding structure is problematic. That there is a certain distrust or wariness of the administration, and that over the past few years there have been many issues which have led to an erosion of trust among the administration and the staff. That one of the challenges, and this is an issue, I think it's a very realistic issue, that one of the challenges is the dual nature of the position, that the person wears two hats. They are both the superintendent and the director, and that it's a challenging role for the person to know when to be the director and when to be the superintendent, how to prioritize those two roles. That the relationship between Middlebury High School and Hannaford has not been as strong as it needs to be, and in fact has sometimes been adversarial. I know it's hard to hear these things. I would encourage you to look at these as opportunities rather than feel stung when you hear these things, because these are, one of the great things about the stakeholder report, and I know I haven't shared with you the qualities and skills yet, but one of the great things about the stakeholder report, and we tell this to every school and district with whom we work, the stakeholder report comes about, of course, because you're doing a search, but it becomes a tool for the board and the superintendent and the community to use as a guide, maybe even as you look at your strategic plan, as you plan for what your future will hold. So rather than look at it as, a slap on the wrist or being stung, look at it as, okay, well now we know some things that we need to do as we move forward. So I just mention that because I hate when people feel stung or feel badly, and the idea is not for you to feel badly, but just to be aware. And then what skills, qualities, or characteristics should the new superintendent possess to be successful here? We heard this pretty consistently. Come in and establish trust, build relationships, see what is working and don't make changes right away. Just get a flavor. Build a community, both within the organization, with all of the sending schools. When we met with the administrators, we got a distinct feeling, I say we, I was the one meeting with them, but I got a distinct feeling that there is a real desire on the part of the other administrators and sending schools to work together and get to know and be partners with Hannaford and the leadership of Hannaford. To have solid soft skills, be a good networker, be a good listener, have great leadership qualities to loop their team back into being a team. Put the kids first. Know that the teachers need support. Make positive connections with all 3 feeder schools, Mount A, Virgins, and Middlebury. Come into the classrooms and talk to the students and really get to know them. We heard that from kids too. They want to know who their leader is. They want to interact. Teachers want the leader to come in. The leader shouldn't be coming in just when there's a problem, but come in and interact, see what we're doing in our classrooms, get to know us. Come in with a sense of confidence in the people who are here and understand that they're capable and they know what they're doing and want to work with you as our director, as our superintendent. And regardless of his or her background, create a supportive environment which will allow faculty and staff to provide the best possible learning atmosphere for our students, and keeping in mind that without the kids, none of us would be here anyway. Focus on restoring our public perception. So, okay, maybe our public perception is bruised a little bit, but that can easily be fixed with the right atmosphere and the right leadership. Enjoy working with teams and have experience working with high school students, and partner with the assistant director in a clear and effective way. So those, I would say, certainly there were more. You're going to, when you get the complete stakeholder report, you're going to read more detail and you'll be able to see it based on the particular stakeholder groups. But I would say the things I've just shared with you are the flavor, the main ideas that came out of each of those groups.
Great, thank
Questions, comments?
No, it doesn't seem that the board has any questions or comments.
No, I think, I liked it. I liked hearing what they had to say. I think that was a very good and effective summary, thank you. I really look forward to seeing the whole thing. So.
Yeah. I think you'll find it very consistent as you read through the whole report. I read the survey results the other day and then read it in detail again today, and I think it's very consistent. Everybody's hopeful and looking forward.
Great. Nick?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think it was a very good summary. Just one little question on, you mentioned the dual position of director and superintendent. Could you clarify that a little more?
Well, I think because your director role, the director role, that hat is probably more one of being kind of a principal role, as I understand it, after talking with everybody and learning more. And then the superintendent role is over the whole organization and functions as a superintendent does of a complete large district. And so, at least in the current structure with the current leadership, my sense is that some feel that it's been difficult to distinguish when the person is functioning as a director and when the person is functioning as a superintendent. I will tell you that there are many small organizations such as yours all over the country where the person has to wear two hats, has to function as the director or more of the principal role, and has to also function as the superintendent, and it works quite successfully. My colleague, Dr. Ralph Ferry, with whom I'm working on another search, he retired, and in retirement served in just that kind of role in a smaller setting. This is not an unusual requirement, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think the right leader will be right for serving in that dual role. I'm not sure I'm answering your question. I think I'm trying to more reassure you.
No, I think you were right on.
Yeah, and Judy, I think we've heard that concern before about teachers not knowing, are you speaking to me as the director or as a superintendent? And I mean, I'm not sure how you might do that other than say, I'm putting on my superintendent hat or I'm putting on my director hat, which might get old after a time.
Color of the tie you're wearing.
Oh, yeah, change the tie up.
Or your dress. Sure.
I will tell you a funny story that Dr. Ferry told me recently. He said when he was in that role as both director or principal and superintendent, a parent came to his office and she was upset about something, and she complained to him, and he listened to her concern and addressed it. And then she came to the office and said to the secretary, I would like to see the superintendent. And so he came out to meet her, and she said, no, I don't want to talk with you. I want to speak to the superintendent. And he said, well, I am the superintendent. So, you can easily wear two hats. There should be a real blending of the two, I think. You don't have to have such a distinction. It's just, in fact, for the staff, there shouldn't be much of a distinction. The distinction is probably more for the board than anyone, because you have dual responsibilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Then Judy, at this point, we will, if there's nothing else from the public section of that report, we will take a motion to go into executive session, which is on our agenda, and it's, we have an executive session planned for personnel and negotiations. May I have a motion to then moved and seconded, go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations and personnel. Any discussion?
It was Nick.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Thank you.